So I don't know about you out there, but I'm really glad that we don't have teachers in our life handing us grades for what we are accomplishing or failing at. And on today's episode, that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about how we identify and overcome the failures that we're going through. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Five Squad podcast. For those out there who don't know who I am, my name is Evan Andrews.
I'm Haley Andrews.
And we are your favorite husband and wife duo that are podcasters, that are just out here living life.
Living the dream.
Living the dream, yeah. As we said in our last podcast, you know, we don't do this for money,
Nope.
right? We make literally no money from this.
None.
Right? And some people out there might tell us that, hey, if you're not monetizing your podcast right now, you might be failing.
True.
But I don't think we are.
I don't think so.
I don't think we are. I think we do this because we want to have fun. We wanted to intentionally put time aside for us to talk.
Yeah.
More, right? Give us a chance to do more of that in a more structured format.
We get to talk when we plan, and then we get to talk here with y'all.
Yeah.
So,
because, you know, sometimes if we aren't able to talk,
this is a great place.
We might be failing at that.
True.
Though, right? But that's what today's episode is all about. It's about going through failures.
I think a lot of people don't want to talk about this. Like, people kind of like keep it on the hush, right? Like, they don't want to bring to light that they feel like a failure ever.
Yeah.
It's
and I'm glad you said that, like, feel like a failure, because I think failure is subjective.
Definitely a feeling.
And it's definitely like on a spectrum
Absolutely.
of whatever. Like, yes, you can tangibly, physically, like, fail a test.
Right.
Right? Like, you can not get enough to pass.
But we're definitely not taking tests.
No, I agree. But, like, well, life might be a test.
Yeah, but you're not,
right?
like you said in the beginning, you're not getting like an F or an A or...
So there's
no rubric for life.
We are our own teachers in that, in terms of, like,
Absolutely.
we grade ourselves, right? And I think a lot of us, when we don't get what we feel like we want or deserve, we deem that as a failure instead of, like, a learning opportunity or something like that. But you know, the first topic of conversation around this topic of failures is, you know, how do we recognize the signs that things aren't kind of going right for us?
I think that's the first thing you have to do is recognize, because you're going to, in life, experience these failure, you know, feelings or mindsets or moments. And it's important to recognize when these things are happening or something like an indicator, right? That, you know, things aren't going right. For me, it's definitely emotional. I can sense the frustration, like anger or sadness is
for me,
higher.
Yeah, my emotion is like feeling like super overwhelmed.
Yeah,
in what I'm doing.
that's true too. Yeah,
and I used to not be that way.
Yeah,
like I don't know what. It's probably because of the challenges I've tasked myself with. In my growth.
You're performing at a higher level.
Yeah,
and I think as you have higher performance habits, #growth day, you have more to lose. So you're constantly feeling or constantly deciding whether you feel like a failure or you feel like a success, right? You, like you said in the beginning, you are your own, you know, teacher, and you have to decide, am I feeling bad or am I feeling good?
Yeah.
And when you're feeling bad, you have to be able to understand like why it's happening.
Yeah. So for like me right now, to just give this some like real world perspective, I recently went to Arizona as a part of a mastermind that I'm with. And I had like a whole shift in what it is that I'm trying to do with my life right now. And I decided to launch a coaching offer inside of my media business. I still have the media business, I still make content for people, still do all of that. Right. But because I already coach part-time for another coaching program, and when going to this mastermind, I had this like epiphany of like, you should just do it on your own.
Right.
Like, you know, don't keep yourself in a box of like, you can only earn so much with somebody else's program.
Right.
Like, charge what you want to charge and do what you know that you can do because you're already doing it.
Yep.
Right. But with doing anything new, and I've only been doing I'm in like week 4 or 5 of like really doing this. And it's been a slow start. Like it's been very, very slow.
But it's definitely challenging your mindset for sure. Wouldn't you say?
Sure. Oh yeah. Cause it's like,
it's so new,
it makes
though.
the first thing that I go through is like, did I make the right choice?
Yep.
Like, did I make the right choice?
Am I doing,
right.
Do I need to go all the way back?
Right.
Yeah.
Is this really what I want to do? So, but it's getting over those thoughts and those frameworks inside of my head that are going to be the thing that propels me past being a failure.
So for me, and actually when we planned this, I didn't even think about this. So this is a little bit more raw than our planning says. But like for me, if you were following us from the very beginning, I previously had a jewelry business, and my jewelry business sold, like the company sold to another company. And I wasn't like the biggest believer in the new company, and I know my customers really well, and I know what they, like and what they're willing to spend, and it wasn't that with this new company. And I remember talking, to my therapist about so how I felt so unsure of like going to this new route, and so I decided not to. And at that moment, I felt like, gosh, I just wasted 2 years of my business and my life. And I felt like at that point, like such a failure. But I also, now hindsight looking back, it propelled me to take my social media cleanse, and it propelled me to take this entire year to really focus on being a wife and being a mom and really getting to know who I am as me. And so like what felt like failure then feels better now. I feel so much more clear, although I don't have a plan
right.
necessarily for business. I feel so much more clarity. So it's like sometimes I think understanding the feelings behind failure is actually more important than really identifying it as a failure, because it's not really a failure, it's a feeling. And I think I've said before in a topic or in a conversation that we've had, is like the only real failure is if you give up completely, and you're not giving up your business, and I'm not giving up parenting. So,
Yeah. And because I think what some people do, and I'm guilty of this too, but like when we have to like make subtle changes or pivots in what we're doing, like that's not giving up.
Right.
And
it's just shifting.
Yeah. And like for me, for right now, it's like, trying to get my coaching offer up off of the ground, literally building it from I don't have anything to offer people other than my time and my knowledge and my expertise and what I can literally hold their hand through. Right.
So you're kind of feeling like at a scarcity mindset instead of an abundance mindset.
Like
you don't have enough to give, but you really do.
I don't have enough to give in a tangible thing.
Like I don't have a module or a
course or something
But you have your knowledge and your expertise, and that's worth something. Just like I sometimes feel like I don't have anything to offer for the kids because I'm still working on me, right? But you would remind me that I have so much to offer, because just going through life and giving them that real raw me is something that not everybody gives to their kids. So it's like,
it's just accepting the reality of what the situation is.
And actually, I was just thinking I don't know if you said it or I said it, but about making those small shifts. I totally recommend reading the book Shift Happens.
I'm halfway through it.
Reading it.
I'm a slow reader. Give me some time.
But really, it's a really great book about like shifting your mindset in tiny, tiny ways. Like just, and if you can, throughout the day and throughout these, especially moments of failure or moments where you don't feel like you're good enough.
Yeah.
Over time, if you can shift those things in a tiny way, it really does help.
One of the biggest shifts that I think a lot of people, I think society suffers from this in general, but it's shifting from blaming other people to like really owning like why things aren't working.
Totally.
'Cause like in my business, in, an agency, a content agency style thing, like a big thing is like, you got to have a guarantee about like the thing that you're going to do for this person is going to work for them. But I think that goes into that honestly, that attracts like the wrong mindset of
Absolutely.
people.
Because there is no guarantee in anything. Even if you think you have a guarantee.
There's really not. And that's what's kind of difficult for me. But I think the whole guarantee thing, and thanks, Hermosi, for giving everybody that in your first book, but even though we appreciate you, brother. The having a guarantee and like leaning on that to be like a selling point, right, is why people don't take ownership, right? And I think that's one of the biggest things that holds people back from recognizing their own failures,
right?
Is they rely on other people to
because their whole
to place the blame on.
Well, their whole mentality is I guaranteed X, right? And this person got it. So then I feel validated. But then if you don't, I mean, if that person doesn't do whatever you guaranteed them, then you feel like shit. I mean, really,
Yeah, I mean,
because there's no guarantee in anything.
Oh, there's not. Like, I mean, I know with like the program that I coach for right now, and like even my program that I'm building, is there's work involved in it.
Absolutely.
It's not a done for you service. Like, I'm here to show you the roadmap of what you should do to grow in this light. And there are certain like check marks and checkpoints that you have to do these things if you want this thing. Right. Right. And a lot of people, they just want to lean on the back of like,
but they also don't want to take ownership for like, hey, I didn't do shit.
Yeah.
And so then my business didn't perform, right? Yeah. It's just like, if I didn't do anything in parenting, like my kids would turn out shitty. Yeah. I mean, Yeah. But I think I'm really good at this. Like, I'm very self-aware, maybe to a fault, honestly. But I feel like I'm pretty good at really taking ownership for where I, screw up. Yeah. I think I'm pretty good at pointing out, like, I know I'm really good at self-reflection, except for when the failure feeling comes in, it's hard, it's easy to blame someone else.
Oh, no, for sure.
That's
why everybody does it.
Right.
Because it's easy. Yeah.
And that's literally what the world wants, is easy.
Nail on the head there. But how do we move forward? How do we learn from feeling like a failure and like how do you move past it?
I mean,
if you really struggle with it, you know what I mean? Like, how do you really like own it and
go from here to here?
Yeah. Like, what's your process around that?
I mean, it's different, I think, depending on the thing.
Yeah.
Because I mean, parenting failures for me feel so much different than like a business failure for me, because that's where I feel like my purpose is.
Well, I think that's where like
we're different.
Well, that's where we're opposites. It's like,
absolutely,
you feel like you're a failure in parenting more than I do,
right?
And I feel like I'm failing at
business or whatever,
which trickles into providing for you guys, and whatever. But
the way I overcome it, I mean, the first thing is just accepting it. Like
that you possibly messed up, or
right?
Like, didn't do what you could.
It goes with the ownership. It's like, for me, like, obviously I'm talking about parenting, but like for me, it's like accepting that, like, oh, I maybe spoke a little too harsh, and I need to apologize.
Sure.
It's not me saying like, oh, well, you did this wrong.
Yeah.
If I spoke harshly, which led to them behaving differently, then I need to accept that, that's not a failure. It's just like, I need to apologize, right? And then we move forward.
Yeah. And I think that's great, because our next episode, we're actually going to go more in depth into like how we actually overcome the
I don't want to give away too many details.
Mindset failure, or the failure mindset.
Right.
Like, we're going to go really in depth into that one in the next one. But that's the end of this episode.
Yeah.
I mean,
one thing I do want to say is like, it's totally normal to feel like you're not doing it all, right? Like, it's totally, totally normal to feel like you're failing at life, and it's okay to say like, hey, I don't feel like I'm doing enough, but it's not okay to live there.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah.
It's just not okay to it's okay. Like, Growth Day today was talking about when you do have those feelings, like maybe take a day to have a pity party. It's okay to feel that way. It's okay to accept that, but you cannot stay there.
But you can't sleep in your bed for 3 days.
Because if you stay there, you're not ever going to grow. Yeah. And that's what we talk about here all the time is growing.
Gotta grow.
Gotta grow
if you want more, right?
Yep.
Boom.
Boom.
Yeah, so that's the end of this episode.
Make sure you stay tuned for next week so we can talk about...
Next week, yes, we're going to go more in depth on this topic a little bit more and how
to overcome it.
Really overcome that failure mindset that we all inevitably go through.
Yep.
Right? But if you stuck with us this long, we appreciate that. If you could interact with this content in any way, shape, or form, that really helps us out. That helps us grow and not feel like we're failing at this. So yeah, if you could like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel if you are a new viewer here, and just give us some feedback, right?
Yeah.
Leave a comment, share it to your social media channels, even if you share it privately with somebody.
We love it.
That's all we need. But we want to leave you the same way that we leave you every time. And just, remember that every day is a new day and a new chance to get it right.
Keep pushing forward and stay inspired. See you next week.